Welcome to The Explainer. Let's be real, we all think about our brain health, especially as we get older. And when it comes to something like dementia, prevention is, well, it's everything. So what if you could protect your brain just by making a few smarter choices at the grocery store? Today, we're going to break down the source material on the 7 worst foods that could be messing with your cognitive health.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with the big question. Is there really a solid link between what's on your plate and how sharp your brain is long term? Well, the research we're looking at today says, oh yeah, absolutely.
In fact, the source material makes a claim that is, honestly, it's pretty staggering. It suggests that just by managing inflammation and protecting our brain cells through our diet, we could potentially slash the chances of getting dementia by over 60%. Just think about that for a second. That's huge.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to talk about why your diet matters so much. Then we'll get into the specifics, things like unhealthy fats and those tricky refined foods. We'll cover 3 more culprits, and then we'll wrap it all up with a clear plan for keeping your brain in top shape. First up, let's get to the root of the problem. It really all comes down to this connection between the food we eat, inflammation in our body, and the direct hit our brain takes from it all.
So here's the deal. The wrong kinds of food can create this constant low-grade inflammation in your body. You can think of it like a slow-burning fire that's always on. And our source explains that over time, this fire can actually damage your brain cells and even cause your brain to shrink, which messes with your ability to think, to remember, to function.
Okay, let's get into our first category of foods. This is where we start to see how this all builds up, starting with some unhealthy fats and oils that can be really damaging to your brain. First on our list, trans fats. Ugh. These are just nasty, artificially created fats. You find them in things like margarine, shortening, and, you guessed it, a ton of processed foods. We're talking cakes, instant noodles, and pretty much anything deep fried. The problem is they're inflammation bombs, and they're directly linked to memory problems and even a smaller brain volume. No, thank you. All right, now for one that might actually surprise you, canola oil. I know, it's in almost every kitchen, right? But our source suggests it's one you might want to avoid, especially when you're cranking up the heat. So what's really fascinating here is the side-by-side comparison. When you heat canola oil to high temperatures, it can actually create the very same trans fats we were just talking about. The source also points to a mouse study that linked a high canola oil diet to serious weight gain and a buildup of those nasty plaques associated with Alzheimer's. But here's the good news. Simple swaps to olive or avocado oil can make all the difference. Okay, let's dive into our third big category, refined foods. You might know them as white foods, and they trigger this really nasty cycle that messes with both your blood sugar and your brain. So, what exactly are refined carbs? Well, to put it simply, they're carbs that have been processed so much that all the good stuff, like fiber, has been stripped away. Think white flour, white sugar, white rice. And taking out that fiber completely changes how your body deals with them. And this slide just lays out the whole vicious cycle perfectly. You eat some refined carbs, your blood sugar goes through the roof. But then, an hour or 2 later, bam, you crash. And that crash sends a panic signal to your brain that screams, "I'm starving," making you crave more of the exact same food. It's a tough cycle to break. So the takeaway here is actually pretty straightforward. You just want to choose complex carbs that still have all their fiber intact. Things like brown rice, oats, whole wheat bread. They give your body and your brain a steady, stable stream of energy, so you can just hop off that destructive roller coaster for good. All right, let's do a quick fire round. We're going to cover 3 more categories from our source that pose a pretty big risk to your brain health over the long haul. Wow, okay, this slide is packing a lot in. First, we've got alcohol. The source says it can jack up your dementia risk by 2.6 times, mostly by damaging key memory centers. Second, ultra-processed foods, your packaged snacks, your sugary cereals, linked to a 16% higher risk of brain-related vascular diseases. And third, something with a very sci-fi name, advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. So let's break down what these AGEs actually are. The source calls them glycotoxins, which literally means sugar toxins. Kind of scary, right? They're basically harmful compounds that get created when sugar smashes into proteins or fats at really high temperatures. Think grilling or frying. You want an easy way to picture this? Think about the nice brown char on a piece of grilled meat,
or the crispy part of your toast. According to our source, that browning is literally a sign that AGEs are forming. It's why it's a good idea to mix in lower heat cooking methods like steaming or boiling more often.
All right, we are in the home stretch. Let's get to our final section. We're going to cover the seventh and final food to avoid, and then we'll pull this all together into a simple action plan you can use to protect your brain, starting right now.
And the last item on our list is artificial sweeteners. Yup, these are everywhere, right? In all those products screaming sugar-free or diet from the shelves. Sodas, energy drinks, snacks, you name it.
And wow, this chart it's really something else. It's based on a US study from our source, and the data is just so clear. People who drink artificially sweetened beverages every single day have a 3 times higher risk of both stroke and dementia compared to people who don't drink them at all. 3 times.
You know, this really gets to the heart of everything we've been talking about. The quote just says it all. Small changes in your daily eating habits can prevent dementia. It's not about being perfect tomorrow. It's about making small, conscious choices one after the other. So let's do a quick recap. This is your brain health checklist, a simple guide for what to start cutting back on. We've got trans fats, canola oil, refined carbs, alcohol, ultra-processed foods, those high-heat AGEs, and last but not least, artificial sweeteners. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. After looking at this whole list, after everything we've just covered, what's one small, totally doable, brain-healthy choice you can make today? Because according to our source material, that single, small choice, that's where real prevention truly begins.